Next to parking.
Next to parking.
Next to parking. If you know, and my response was, keep reading, it talks in the same manual, it says that natural resources can be a constrained environment. So there's difference of opinion there based on the same reading material. But regardless, we've done it, we do it everywhere over the village. It's just because we have a building and not 12 trees. Well, I feel 12 trees are way more important than the building. So to me, you know, as a representative of people who care about the trees right now, I would like to find a solution to this area. And the only reason I say this area is it's the only area we put a median in. And that's why you guys, we all voted as a board, granted I was a dissenting vote, but as a collective board, we voted to take the hybrid option because we didn't want, we wanted, I remember Magra's comment saying, it doesn't all fit. We want to stay within the right of way. We don't want to chop down trees. And so I remember that very specifically as one of the deciding factors. So because this impacts so many healthy trees, I feel like we just need to decide what's more important. Because we're not getting any state aid for this road. So it's not a question of when we were going through the task force for a year and 6 months, actually, if you look at the right timeline, the task force, the residents kept saying, well, are we going to lose state aid if we make a shared bike lane? Are we going to, and they were under the impression, I mean, I have a memo from our planning director who said, I don't recommend a west side bike lane at all. I don't know how it got in there. But if we do one, they recommended that it be a fog lane, our own village planning director. So because we're not getting any state funding, everybody, the residents thought we're going to lose funding if we don't do a 5-foot bike lane. That was my concern the whole time. I was like, well, don't make it 5 feet if we don't know if we're going to lose funding, you know, 4 feet. And then when we finally got the answer that we weren't going to get any state funding, or at least that's what we found out. Anyways.
Did we ever think we were getting state funding?
I don't know that the residents, when I participated in the work groups.
It's not a state road.
Yeah,
I understand you understood that. Yes, I get that. I'm just saying that I don't believe it was made clear because I didn't understand that. So at the time, I did once I got on the board, but as a resident, I didn't understand that.
We had the question before us is the biofiltration. I mean, the bike lane is a separate issue, I think.
Right.
And I just asked, when should we talk about
Yeah,
it?
I'm just saying, what if we keep to the question?
So we'll talk about it later.
yeah. So do we want procedurally, we've made a
We made a decision.
We've made a decision.
Go to the next item.
So it's staying as designed. Like I said, unless somebody's proposing something.
Wait, no.
As designed is biofiltration in the median. That's what we.
Okay, biofiltration in the median.
In the median.
In the median. Okay.
That's what our plan is. Our proposal is. Our cost estimate. That's what we discussed.
Let's make it real clear then and do a motion on it.
Motion for what?
I move to reconfirm the interest in having having bio treatment in the median, in which strip? Olive to Elpin.
Second.
And does this preclude, I mean, does this mean that 12 trees are going to come out, or are we going to talk about that at a different time? I'm confused, just because we started a conversation and then we...
Yeah. No, it doesn't mean that trees are being either removed or saved. It simply means that we are...
If you vote to keep the median now, there's another discussion later about park enhancements and things. So if you vote to keep the median now, then one of the parameters to discuss in that area is that the median remains. That is how I would interpret what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other discussion with trustees on this motion? Okay, yeah.
I just have a question. So, Donna Pollock, if you decide to keep the median in, and you vote on that, then the discussion about the parking and the trees come later? Isn't that part of the discussion?
It's going to be in a few minutes.
But I mean, isn't it all, I mean, before you park, no?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
No. Just,
We've already made, the thing is, we've already had discussions, we already made a decision. they have made a design and taken it to 60% in cost estimate. If we want to back out of that, I mean, how are we going to back out of it? Over here or over there? I don't know that it makes a difference. What I'm trying to do is, you know, and that was to my question earlier, President Johnson, do we want to take this thing as a whole and say, okay, let's have an agreement and then make one motion with all these things, or do we want to take them piece at a time? And the direction I heard was let's take them piece at a time. And the first piece is green infrastructure. We addressed the biofiltration. Now we're reconfirming with formal action the biofiltration. And does that mean that trees are done? No, we've got those park enhancements.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Gateway enhancements is next.
Before my investors, I did print, biggest piece of paper my copier will handle, each of those alternatives for you that is on your desk. It's not as large as I'm sure you'd like it to be, but it's probably better than reading it off your screen. I got my notes for this too. Okay, so I am playing the role of landscape architect now, which, for those of you that know me, I'm an engineer, so bear with me, my landscape architect was not able to make it tonight. At the early October board meeting, I think it was the 3rd, I'm not sure if that's the right date, but we were given direction to go ahead and study 2 alternatives for the gateway entryway at the north end of the village. And what we're proposing here is a couple ideas, and we went with kind of 2 different ideas that build upon some ideas already done within the village. And what I'm going to do today is just outline them for you. In your packet, there was a cost estimate associated with both alternatives. There's also a discussion of whether to do the gateway at all, but I wanted you to have this background of what these 2 alternatives are before you kind of talk about the whole gateway concept. Okay, so first thing I want to mention is the gateway can be a phase 2 project. There is nothing in either one of these alternatives that cannot be added, you know, in 2019 or 2020 if you wanted to make it a separate project. So these designs hopefully will not go to waste even if you don't put them in this project. And so the other thing that the landscape architects think about as they design these is the intent of this corridor is really to move from the village into the park. So that's kind of the framework that they work with. This first alternative, Eric describes as a refined alternative. It has clean lines, and it's a little bit more architectural. So up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that this monument, which is what is shown down on Capitol Drive, which is a little bit more maybe towards the business district, but we could make those very similar. This is proposed with a primary monument on both sides of the roadway. This is what was in the visualization that was put forth at the public meeting. So you see them kind of on both sides as you drive into Shorewood. The idea here would be to use the upper portion of the monument would be similar, but we could do more of a natural rock bottom to kind of bring in the ideas of the natural side of the river. So this would be a stone base to help emphasize that natural character. So the use of natural material would be carried throughout the design. And so these have refined costs with them, and we have actually minimized the number of monuments now. So this elevation view would be here on either end of the median. And these are really just kind of a more, natural rock foundation that would look very similar to this picture here, and maybe with a little bit of emphasis right here in the center just to give it some character. This alternative is less than the estimate that was in the September 27th budgetary because we really reduced the number of secondary monuments. It's just not as much to it. The number of trees is pretty much the same. Any tree with a plus is the existing, any tree with a little tiny circle is proposed. If you look at the visualization that we had for public meeting number 2, you'll notice that median had a lot of flowered plant beds. These have refined that alternative. There aren't nearly as many flowered plant beds. We would be planting beds at the monuments and under the ornamental trees, but then the center would just be regular trees.
On the lower left, would that just be on the west side, on the Estabrook side?
That's just to show another picture of these natural monuments that would actually be in the median on either end.
Oh, in a median?
Mhm. Mhm. What's really important is that both of these designs can really be customized to a budgetary number that you folks would want. You can remove some monuments, add some monuments, add some trees, but it's really just to give an overall idea of what it could look like. So that's pretty much a summary of alternative 1. Alternate A, we're calling it A and B, not to confuse them with the roadway
You have
alternatives.
an AA and an AB there.
It's on the very last stage of the process, Matt.
Yeah, it's the small, the regular size sheet.
All right, so this is alternative B. And this is a little bit more extensive alternative as drawn, but again, you can take pieces, if you like one from another, you can mix and match. But the idea here is to have only one primary monument on this side. So here's your primary monument, and it would be more of a vertical, natural entryway type of thing, like one centerpiece that kind of says, now you're in Charlotte. You could really build upon the idea of vertical monuments in general as you lead into the, into Estabrook Park. You could enhance some of this area. So one idea would be to have a monument like this. Another primary alternative would be to actually use the Village of Shorewood logo and put it in more of a metallic. So an idea like this that's more on a sculpture base. And use that so that it really wouldn't have any then connection to monuments on Capitol Drive. It would really be totally different. The median is fairly similar, but the idea of the walls are a little more serpentine and mixed with native grasses and whatnot to really enhance the idea of moving towards the park. Again, we're showing these serpentine walls in a couple locations, but you could do less. And these serpentine walls on either side here really kind of frame the entryway to the village as well. This piece is new. It might not be on your sketch. We forgot to add it last Thursday. So as far as timing on the gateway, I would say this is something that is not as critical to the utility submittal as a lot of the actual infrastructure of the roadway. The one piece that could get into utility coordination are the entryway monuments and the fact that they have foundations, and we want to make sure that we're avoiding utilities with those. But other than that, it's elements that I'm not too concerned about. So this decision could be made before December 1st to get it in the plans, but it doesn't need to be made tonight if you wanted to talk about the gateway a little bit more or consider the options. Pardon?
Did you have to submit it with your utility plan?
So what we would do at this point is we'd probably show the monument locations, and then if they come out, it's not a big deal, but at least the utilities would then know that they're, because honestly, if you're gonna do a gateway at some point in the future, you better get the utilities moving out anyway, so I think we would show the monument locations and then incorporate into the construction plans, whatever you guys direct. So.
Trustee,
And these are in the overall scope of the project, these costs? They're placeholders at least.
The design costs, or that's, the design costs or the construction costs?
Construction.
So the construction costs are in your primary estimate here in phase 1 under the gateway, I believe it's at about 150. Now the colored concrete is in a different location, but if you combine it all together, the back page of these alternatives compares to that 150 because the colored concrete is separate. But
but right, I guess, yeah, phase one is what it was.
Yep, right now it's shown in phase one.
Great.
Yep.
Trustee Rosie.
So when we voted for the hybrid alternative on July 10th, our allowance for the gateway was $50,000. So that's what we were basing it on. I'd like to stick with that budget. My question is, for phase one, how much, I was trying to figure out from the cost breakdown, is it for just the median work, meaning to put the curb in and the trees? Because I don't want to lose the trees.
Okay, let me just comment on your first question, then I'll pull the spreadsheet up and show you. So in the estimate you first referenced, those were placeholders with that, I'll just explain for everybody else,
Yeah.
that there was no design associated with that. So to a degree, they were a complete guess. We had no brainstorming, we had no nothing. So when we did PIM number 2, we actually designed the first, we put together ideas for alternate A, and that's what was shown at the public meeting and also included in the visualization. And that cost